There's essentially lines not only out the door, but around the dealerships for the new Toyota RAV4. But I have good news and bad news today regarding Toyota's best seller. Production has finally started here in the United States. I'm going to tell you how that's going to affect availability going forward and what kind of lag and what kind of pileup we have of orders and customers for the all-new RAV4. But after we cover that, I'm also going to give you alternatives. If you've been waiting in line or you don't want to wait forever for a new RAV4, I'm going to give you some amazing alternatives within the Toyota lineup, outside the Toyota lineup, that you're not going to have to wait for. In fact, you're going to have great deals too on a lot of those alternatives. And after we cover the RAV4, we're going to talk about how the Tacoma could come back to the United States for production. Currently, it's made in Mexico. We'll unroll that today, crack that nut open. Also, we're going to talk about how Nissan is kind of in trouble with their UK Sunderland plant and how they might even be building EVs for Chinese Cherry in that plant. And lastly, we'll discuss Honda's new EV that is a forbidden fruit here in the United States, but it is being extraordinarily well received in other markets. Guys, if you're new to the channel, my name's Kirk. I will actually be reviewing the new RAV4 plug-in hybrid and finally get it in at my house for a full week. It will be the GR Sport, the sportiest top-end plug-in hybrid. If you missed my coverage, I've already driven it before, but I haven't had it for a week for full testing. But if you want to see further coverage on the RAV4, the new one, as well as the plug-in hybrids, I have driven them extensively, not only in Arizona at the original media drive, but also I've tested a RAV4 Woodland here. I've done a fuel economy test on it. Love that thing. Really, really good vehicle. So I'll try to put those links somewhere around my face, but we're going to get right into Toyota RAV4 production. It has finally started this month, June of 2026, here in the United States. Now, originally, before tariffs happened, the RAV4 was going to be 100% be imported into the United States. Now, they have built it for many years in Kentucky, many years, but they were thinking about building them all, and there are two assembly lines in Canada, their Cambridge plant and their Woodstock. I think it's also built in the Woodstock plant up there. And they would be sending them from Canada to the United States, from Japan to the United States, which they are doing both of those things. And they have been doing both of those things. But the crazy thing is that because tariffs, Toyota decided to keep the RAV4 production in Kentucky. And that's kind of why it's so far behind schedule. That's my theory anyways, of starting production. It started production actually in Japan, the new RAV4, at the end of last year, December. And then January, it started production in Canada. And we didn't start seeing new RAV4s hit the dealerships until around February of 2026. Now, we still haven't seen really any of the new ones from the American Kentucky plant hit the lots yet. Okay, so they're rolling off the assembly lines now, thank God, to finally give us full supply of the best-selling, or traditionally what is the best-selling vehicle in America that's not a pickup truck. The crown will go to the CR-V this year in terms of the best-selling non-pickup truck, because the RAV4 is going to be down like 40%. And because only two plants have been supplying the RAV4, we have massive pileups of customers. In Longo Toyota, which is El Monte, California, there are more than 800 customers waiting for the new RAV4. And that wait list keeps growing, despite the dealership selling over 200 vehicles this past May. Okay, so last month they sold 200 RAV4s. That is astronomical. Okay, to see that sort of volume, but there's still about 1,000 people waiting for the new RAV4. Earl Stewart Toyota in Lake Park, Florida, closer to my stomping grounds here, pre-sold each of the new 40 RAV4s offered on its website weeks or actually months before delivery. So all of the stuff that is allocated, what does that mean? Okay, so if you're in a dealer, you pop into Dealer Daily, Toyota has a bunch of allocated vehicles that are on the way from the plant. Well, here's the thing. That would be more in transit, but they have a build sheet of all the ones that will be built and sent out. Okay, so they know what cars they're going to be getting a month plus in advance. All those cars are being sold. In fact, they actually give us a number. Their turn rate is 97.6%. You could say it is about 98% of RAV4s are pre-sold. at this point. And typically we talk about cars in days supply. And what that means is if the dealership has 100-day supply, which is really high, all right, of a specific vehicle, but it's not unheard of. You look at like Jeep, for example, Stellantis typically has triple-digit day supply. That means if they stopped getting new vehicles in, it would take them 100 days to sell out of their current inventory. The RAV4 is not computing on typical inventory timesheets. It's selling in literally hours supply. Okay, so it just doesn't compute. Everything is pre-sold. 98% of the cars or the RAV4s coming into the dealership are already spoken for. They have a deposit on them. That is insane. This is actually more and stronger than what it was in peak pandemic times. I was actually selling in peak pandemic, and so 2020, 2021. And yeah, like cars were often pre-sold in those moments. And you had the chip supply shortage shortly after that, and cars were often pre-sold. But the fact that almost 100% of the RAV4s that are pre-sold is just unfathomable. Okay, so with the Kentucky plant starting to pump out RAV4s, we're getting 40,000 vehicles pumped into the current supply from Canada and Japan. Okay, 40,000's not that much when you consider the RAV4 sold like 475,000 units last year. 475. And what they're saying here is not only are they not only are they producing RAV4s in the Kentucky plant finally, 40,000 is not what they're maxed out capable of. All right. You have to keep in mind Toyota wants to slowly ramp up so they don't put out a bunch of poor quality RAV4s. It takes time for the assembly line to be like a fine-tuned machine, a well-oiled machine, to not only produce them at a high clip, but also produce them at quality at a high clip. So they're not just like flooding out of the Kentucky plant. All right. They're like trickling out of the Kentucky plant right now as they get more proficient and better at building these new RAV4s. You also keep in mind in Kentucky, there are 3 assembly lines, but right now it's a really messed up situation over there, at least in terms of max output. Okay, we know the Camry's been cranking on assembly line 2. Assembly line 3 is where the Lexus ES was made, and I think they'll be producing more Camrys on it in the future, or maybe they currently are right now. I've heard from my sources in and around the plant in Kentucky is that the paint bath can only take like sedan-sized vehicles. They can't put SUVs in there. Maybe it's not deep enough. I'm not quite sure, but they might have to produce more sedans on that assembly line 3. That's just my understanding. So assembly line 3 is like out of the equation for producing RAV4s. Okay, so assembly line 2 is the only one producing RAV4s right now, as well as a boatload of Camrys. What about assembly line 1? Well, assembly line 1 used to produce, if I remember correctly, the RAV4 hybrid. But again, the original plan was to get rid of the RAV4 hybrid in Kentucky and instead build EVs. Yes, the new Highlander EV and the Subaru variant will be built on assembly line 1, but it's a flex line. So in the future, they could also be building RAV4s on that assembly line, Camrys, from my understanding. Time will tell. Okay, so Kentucky's going through this like generational change of switching over. They're even producing battery packs within Georgetown, Kentucky, where they make all these RAV4s and Camrys and will be Highlanders shortly. The battery cells come from the North Carolina plant, and they arrive kind of just in individual cells, and they package those cells into a battery pack for specifically hybrids or plug-in hybrids. But the plug-in hybrids use a different battery cell than the standard hybrids. Back to inventory. On June 16th, the nation's over 1,200 Toyota dealers had 967 unsold RAV4 hybrids, which again, all of them are hybrid now, and 719 RAV4 plug-in hybrids. That's like, if you add them up, right, you have 1,200 dealers and you have about 1,500 RAV4s, including plugins. Okay, so each dealer has a little bit more than one RAV4 on the lot. Okay, and again, that kind of goes into say, hey, 98% are pre-sold. Somehow you might get the 1% to 2% that slipped through the cracks if someone canceled. and that car is sitting there waiting to be bought. So sales of the RAV4 so far this year are down 40%. They've only sold 121,000, and only 10,000 are the plug-in hybrid. Now, keep in mind, just because that Georgetown, Kentucky plant, the largest single Toyota plant in the world, you also have like Toyota City, which has a bunch of different, it's like its own, right? It's a city for a reason. They produce a ton of cars in Toyota City. There are multiple plants over in Japan, but the single biggest factory is actually the Kentucky plant. Like I said, 40,000 are being pumped out this year. Next year, they're planning to jump volume additionally 50%. So we're still only talking about 60,000 RAV4s coming out next year. One dealer said they took 51 new fresh orders of RAV4s just in the past weekend. That's absurd. So what should you be doing if you want a RAV4? Well, you're gonna have to put a deposit down. Try to agree to MSRP only as it comes in. You don't want to pay for additional accessories if you don't need them. And so here's the thing with a lot of, especially with my distributor, God bless them because they give me cars to review through my local dealer, but they will also put on a bunch of distributor options that are way overpriced. Like it's not even ethical, in my opinion, to charge like $100 for a screen protector or like $80 for USB cords. Like that's ridiculous. So try to sign for agreed upon MSRP. There's no way you're going to get below it. So that's if you want to wait. But I'm telling you, should you wait? Well, that's entirely up to you. There's a lot of things out there within Toyota's lineup. Look, CHR, just drove it. It's fantastic. 0% down. Sorry, 0% financing for 72 months. That's crazy. It's fast as heck. It's smaller than a RAV4. If you want a RAV4 size, you still can't get 0% financing on a new BZ. Those are fully electric, I know, but if you can charge at home, it's oftentimes like the better option. And these can charge at Tesla superchargers now, so it's not that big of a deal, in my opinion. All right, so if you want to be a little bit more open, you don't want to pay any gas whatsoever, you don't take long road trips a lot, the BZ and the CHR and even the Woodland, the BZ Woodland, have plenty of range and are fast and they're efficient, they're quiet, they're good cars, okay? Also, what about the plug-in hybrids? Some of these might fall through the cracks. If you're lucky. I checked a few weeks ago and there were actually some discounts out there, but I think those were snapped up. All right. So, yep, there's a huge waiting line still for the plug-in hybrid. All right. If you look at the CHR, there are actually a few in my area. Let's see. Let me show you. You guys can get these for not that much more money than a base RAV4 LE, but they're available now. And they're fast as heck. They're dual motor, all-wheel drive standard. Yeah, watch my review on it. Really, really impressed. Not the most comfortable, but nor is the RAV4. Okay. Camry. These are built alongside the RAV4 in Kentucky, right? Camry LE is one of the best buys on the market in terms of efficiency, power for its class. It's the most comfortable Camry, but the seat still is not as good as the RAV4. But hey, this is an amazing buy, and you can get these in all-wheel drive as well, the Camry. So you keep that in mind. If you don't want to wait, buy a Camry, and it's amazing. It's an amazing car. Okay. Mazda CX-50 hybrid. Look at this. This is a massive discount here. You can get really good deals on this vehicle. This uses the 4th generation Toyota hybrid system, which is still fantastic because I just drove it in a Lexus RX and got crazy fuel economy in it. It's still really good. It's not as powerful or, in theory, as efficient as the 5th generation or even the 6th generation. But the 6th generation is only in the Lexus ES right now. But the 5th generation, the RAV4, is fantastic, too. The 4th generation, also fantastic. Super reliable. If you don't want to wait for a Toyota hybrid, Toyota's hybrid system's right here. And the Mazda CX-50 hybrid. So, yeah, that is also something you should be considering if you don't want to wait in line. Guys, look, $4,000 off of MSRP for a CX-50 hybrid. CRV hybrid. Let me see. Like, I recommend the Trail Sport or the front wheel drive Sport model. So $35K. These are available now. $2,000 off of MSRP. Goodbye. All right. Even the Kia Sportage right now. Let's see. Sportage hybrid. These are like the cheapest hybrids in the segment. Right. $28K. Really good buy for an entry-level Sportage hybrid. Okay. So there are alternatives out there that are not quite as efficient as the RAV4. Maybe they're not going to hold their value as well as the RAV4. The Honda should. All right. But like the Honda's 5 to 6 grand more expensive than a Sportage hybrid. So something to consider there. Let me know if you are on the waiting list on the new RAV4. What has your experience been like placing an order? I want to know. I want to hear all about it in the comments section, but we're going to keep moving. I mentioned that the Tacoma might come back to the United States, and this is evident in the Toyota executive reshuffling. A lot of people got promoted or people are retiring, and so that's reshuffling the whole shebang with leadership within Toyota, especially here in North America. And the crazy thing here is we know that there's a $2 billion expansion going on in Texas. It's called Project Orca, and it's right there outside of the current San Antonio plant where they build the Tundra and the Sequoia. So I was theorizing when Project Orca was announced that they'd be using it to build the new RAV4 pickup truck, the unibody pickup truck to fight something like the Ford Maverick. But this article is saying that more than likely it's so that the Tacoma can be brought in from Mexico. Okay, currently the Tacoma is built in the Guanajuato plant in Mexico as well as the Baja plant. So it's built in two different plants, but they want to make it in Texas, San Antonio once again. And I even said in my last video, my hot take was like, the engine, the twin turbo V6 engine issue is so bad on the Tundra and Sequoia right now. I'm like, just kill them. Just build a bunch of Tacomas in San Antonio instead. And you know, now if the Tacoma's coming back to San Antonio, that means you're going to have production capacity for the plants in Mexico. What should they build there? Will you build the Maverick fighter there, the unibody pickup truck hybrid, and kick the snot out of the Maverick if you can? Good luck, but Toyota knows how to do unibody hybrids really well, and they're proving, well, typically they know how to do trucks well too, but they're proving they've dropped the ball with the new engine in the big pickup trucks. So Juan Francisco Garcia, the current president of Toyota's Tacoma plant in Guanajuato, Mexico, is moving to the #2 position at Toyota's truck plant in Texas. Makes you wonder, right? He knows, obviously, Juan Francisco knows a lot about the Tacoma. Why would he be going up to Texas? Toyota seeking incentives to build Project Orca in anticipation of moving Tacoma production back to the U.S. This is massive news if this ends up to be true, because then what do? Do you build 4Runners down in Mexico? Do you build the unibody truck down in Mexico? You can start playing a lot of chess, okay, with different models for Toyota, introducing new models like the RAV4 pickup truck. It's pretty exciting. So we're going to move on to UK, and Nissan is in trouble. A part of it is because they are expecting Nissan to sell a ton of EVs this year. Under current rules, EVs are required to account for 33% of the automaker's UK new car sales in 2026. And year to date, EVs have only made up just under 24% of new car sales. And by 2030, EVs must account for 80%. And the car industry wants that lowered to 50%. 50% might be too high. I still think it's too high for UK for lots of different reasons. Obviously, they have zero supply chain for batteries in UK, or at least using traditional lithium-ion batteries. That doesn't make a lot of sense. You also don't have, there are a lot of people that in the UK that live in apartments and flats or whatever you want to call them, that don't have access to chargers at home, and so they're paying really high public rates, and even home rates are fairly high for EVs too, because I hear energy is pretty expensive in the UK. So 50% is still really high by 2030. And unless battery prices continue to fall, which I expect them to, but battery electric vehicles are expensive, and the manufacturers need them to be incentivized in order to somewhat make money on them. So they need governmental help in multiple ways. Not only through incentives, they need the governments to chill the F out on BEVs, because they're going to sink the automakers. Look at the irreparable damage that's gone on, not only in the UK with automakers, but especially in Germany right now. Like Volkswagen, BMW, and Mercedes, they're all screwed because of the BEV mandates. So unless Britain chills out with their EV mandates, Nissan might have to close its factories in Sunderland, which employs at least 6,000 people, and that's not even including the suppliers, if I remember right. So, yeah, Nissan is, I think, the largest car manufacturer left in the UK. Even though they're going to be building the new Juke there, the demand for their e-power hybrids is much, much higher, and they won't be able to sell them if the mandates maintain their ridiculous requirements, okay, for BEV shakeout. Now Nissan's even considering teaming up with a Chinese Chery to build cars in one of the assembly lines in the Sunderland plant, which is just crazy. But you know, you're desperate at some point because you're being forced to make EVs, and you pretty much have to do a deal with the devil to make it work. Speaking of EVs, and an EV that I would love to have is the new Honda Super N. I've been in N1E, which is an electric version of this car, as well as the N1, which is the gas version of this K car. But the Super N1 is a wider, beefed up electric car, and it doesn't have, like, I think in the boost mode, it only has like 90 some horsepower. But I would love for this little hot hatch to come to America. It only weighs about 2,000 pounds, so 100 electric horsepower is quite a lot, okay, in a car like this when you have instant power and torque. And the interior here is just amazing. Well, the exterior is amazing too. This to me reads old school Honda, absolutely. But look at this interior. We have a climate control knob, fan speed, but everything's just like buttons and switches. Okay, volume knob. This is perfect interior, real buttons on the steering wheel. You have this little purple button on it for the boost mode, which is cool. Like, this is proper. You have a little cup holder here. I think it's a 4-seater, but it has the magic seats in the back that you can fold down and fit crazy amounts of stuff in there for such a small vehicle. They're packaged incredibly well. It's a K car and it's a Honda, so it's going to be like the packaging and configurations are just nuts on this thing. It is expensive for what it is. Range isn't a whole lot either. If you're in America, probably a little over 100 miles of electric range on the EPA cycle. But look, it has heated seats here, push button, which is fine for a vehicle like this. Yeah, look at that boost, but like the blue stitching, the blue seats, super cool car. But I got to end it there. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed today's content, hit the like button. If you made it to the end, let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a great day and peace.